The first crash of thunder rattled the hospital windows as I shoved open the emergency room doors, rainwater streaming down my coat. My son was dying, and the only thing standing between him and death was me, my own kidney, my own choice. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe so you won't miss the next story that might brighten your day. I'm Teresa Collins, and this is the night I went from the quiet mother everyone underestimated to the woman who stopped a crime and saved her family. Stick around, I think you'll want to hear every heartbeat of this. The first flash of red split the night like a wound. I was halfway across the dark kitchen when the siren's scream rose through the storm, shrill, relentless, almost human. Rain hammered the old tin roof so hard it shook the light fixture above me. I froze, my hand still on the coffee cup. Then the phone rang. Mrs. Collins, a voice shouted over static. It's the Harbor Point ER. Your son's been admitted, critical kidney failure. We need you now. The cup shattered on the tile. Minutes later I was behind the wheel, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. The wipers could barely keep up, each stroke a frantic heartbeat. I gripped the steering wheel until my hands ached, whispering the prayer every mother knows when death is near. When I burst through the emergency room doors, a gust of salt air followed me in. The smell of disinfectant and wet concrete tangled in my throat. Two orderlies rushed past, pushing a gurney. My eldest Daniel lay strapped to it, his broad shoulders slack, his skin the color of old paper. A tube snaked across his face. Mom, his lips barely moved. Daniel, my voice cracked. I tried to follow, but a nurse blocked me with a firm arm. Please, ma'am. We need to stabilize him. I stood there trembling, watching the double doors swallow my body. The echo of them swinging shut was louder than the storm. A doctor in a soaked white coat appeared, rain dripping from his collar. Mrs. Collins, I'm Dr. Owens. We ran every test. Your son's kidneys are collapsing. Without an immediate transplant, he won't make it through the night. Only your kidney is a match. The world tilted. I reached for the counter to stay upright. Before I could speak, a sharper voice cut in. You'll do it. It was Melissa, Daniel's wife, her black umbrella dripping onto the sterile floor. She stepped closer, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. You have to. It's your duty as his mother. Duty. The word slammed into me. Outside, thunder rolled like an answer. My neighbor Janice Howard, who'd driven me through the storm, touched my shoulder. Teresa, think this through. Surgery at your age. I'll do whatever it takes, I whispered, though my voice felt miles away. They handed me the consent form. My signature shook across the page like a fault line. Hours bled together. The hospital hummed with machines and distant cries. I caught fragments of conversation, nurses paging surgeons, an orderly mentioning an operating room ready. I sat rigid, the storm's rhythm matching the pounding in my chest. When they finally wheeled me toward surgery, the hallway light stretched long and cold. The scent of antiseptic was sharp enough to taste. Don't worry, a young resident said gently, adjusting my Roman 4. We'll take good care of you, Mrs. Collins. You're saving your son's life. Saving him. The words felt both holy and unbearable. Inside the operating room, white light poured down like a judgment. Instruments gleamed on metal trays. The anesthesiologist held a syringe that caught the glow of the overhead lamp. I closed my eyes, trying to picture Daniel as the boy who once raced gulls along the pier, hair flying in the summer wind. My chest ached with memories too heavy to hold. Then, a crash like a gunshot. The doors burst open so hard the hinges shrieked. Grandma, stop. Every head snapped toward the sound. There stood Nathan, my 9-year-old grandson, rainwater streaming from his hair, sneakers leaving muddy prints on the pristine floor. His small chest heaved as he clutched a dripping backpack. I know why Dad is sick, he cried, voice breaking but clear enough to slice the air. The heart monitor's beeps quickened, matching the thunder outside. Dr. Owens lowered the syringe. What did you say, son? Nathan's eyes, dark, fierce, and brimming with tears, locked on mine. Grandma, don't let them do it. I can prove it. Through the glass window, I glimpsed Melissa sprinting down the corridor, her face ashen, her steps frantic. The room fell silent. Only the storm dared to speak. The room seemed to shrink around us. The only sound was the storm hammering the windows and the anxious beeping of the heart monitor. Dr. Owens crouched to Nathan's eye level. Son, take a breath, he said, calm but firm. Tell us what you mean. Nathan clutched his soggy backpack tighter. It's my mom, he stammered. I saw her give Dad medicine, not the ones the doctor gave. My pulse thundered in my ears. Nathan, I said softly, fighting the tremor in my voice, what medicine? She hides it in the cabinet under the sink, he blurted. She told me not to tell anyone, but Dad started getting worse after she gave him those pills. Through the glass wall, I spotted Melissa charging toward the door, eyes blazing. 2 nurses stepped into her path, but her voice sliced through the corridor. "Nathan, stop this nonsense." Dr. Owens shot me a grave look. "Mrs. Collins, we need to pause this procedure and verify what's going on. For now, we can't proceed." Relief and dread collided inside me. I reached for Nathan's hand, still chilled from the rain. "You did the right thing, sweetheart," I whispered. Security escorted us to a family consultation room. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, too cold. Melissa stormed in moments later, her hair plastered to her forehead. "This is absurd," she hissed. "Nathan's a child, he doesn't know what he's saying." Nathan flinched but didn't let go of my hand. "I'm not lying," he said, voice small but steady. Dr. Owens cleared his throat. "Mrs. Collins will need to run tests on Daniel's current medications and anything brought from home. For now, your surgery is on hold." Melissa's jaw tightened. "Fine," she snapped, "but this is wasting time while my husband is dying." I studied her face, so composed it looked carved from stone, but in her eyes I caught a flicker of something raw. Fear, anger, I couldn't tell. An hour later, Nathan and I sat in the dim waiting lounge. The storm had quieted to a soft drizzle, the glass streaked with silver trails of rain. My neighbor Janice arrived, raincoat dripping. "I came as soon as I heard," she said, gripping my shoulders. "Teresa, what on earth is happening?" I told her everything in a low voice, Nathan's warning, the mysterious pill. Janice's eyes widened. "You always said Melissa was controlling, but this..." I stared at the floor, memories surfacing like ghosts. The little signs I ignored. Melissa insisting on managing all of Daniel's prescriptions. The unlabeled bottle she kept in her purse. The way she dismissed my questions with a smile too bright to be real. Had I been blind or just unwilling to see? Peter arrived next, my younger son, quiet as ever. His dark jacket smelled faintly of motor oil from his late shift at the auto shop. He knelt beside me. "Mom," he said, voice steady, "I need to show you something." He pulled a phone from his pocket and swiped to a series of grainy photos, nighttime shots, a parking lot, Melissa, unmistakable in her camel coat, handing a small package to a man in a black hoodie. "I didn't want to believe it," Peter murmured. "But last week I followed her when she said she was visiting a friend. Something felt off. My stomach dropped. Why didn't you tell me?" "I wasn't sure what it meant," he said. "I didn't want to accuse her without proof." Nathan leaned closer, eyes wide. "That's the man I saw, the one Mom met in the driveway." I pressed a hand to my temple, trying to steady the whirl of thoughts. Could Melissa, my own daughter-in-law, be slowly killing the man she vowed to love? Hours stretched. Daniel remained sedated in intensive care while toxicology tests began. I wandered the quiet hallway, every echo of my footsteps a reminder of how fragile life had become. Janice found me near the vending machines, her voice a gentle murmur. "You've carried this family for decades," she said. "Don't let anyone force you into something you're not sure about." Her words hit deep. For years I'd been the silent provider, the widow who paid off the house, the mother who never complained. Maybe I'd mistaken silence for strength. I thought of Daniel as a boy chasing gulls along the harbor, promising to build me a house with a porch facing the sea. I thought of the sacrifices, the nights I skipped dinner so my sons could eat. And now the child I once carried might have been poisoned by the woman he chose. A soft chime interrupted my thoughts. Dr. Owens approached, expression unreadable. "Mrs. Collins, we've secured the medications from your son's room and home supply. We'll have preliminary results soon. Until then, we keep him stable and watch for any reaction." I nodded, heart heavy. Peter touched my elbow. "Mom," he whispered, "I think we need to stay alert. If Melissa is behind this, she won't stop easily." I looked back toward the waiting room where Nathan sat curled in a chair, his backpack at his feet like a silent sentinel. Outside, the rain began again, gentle at first, then harder, a relentless drumbeat against the glass. Somewhere in that storm, truth was gathering like thunder. By dawn, the rain had thinned to a cold mist, but the hospital corridors still smelled of stormwater and antiseptic. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel as a boy, bare feet pounding the pier, laughter bright as sunlight. Then the image shifted to the pale man behind the ICU glass, tubes snaking from his arms. Peter returned from the cafeteria with 2 coffees. "You need something warm, Mom," he said quietly. I took the cup, fingers trembling against the paper sleeve. "We can't accuse her without more," I whispered. "Not yet," he nodded, but his jaw tightened. "Then we gather more." Late morning, Dr. Owens called us to a small consultation room. His face was carefully neutral. The toxicology lab confirmed traces of a nephrotoxin, something never prescribed by any of our staff. It was present in the unlabeled pills and in your son's last blood draw. The words settled like lead in the air. What does that mean? I asked. It means, he said slowly, someone introduced a substance that damaged his kidney. We'll keep him stable while we investigate. But Mrs. Collins, he hesitated. It would be wise to involve the police. Peter's hands curled into fists. Then do it. Melissa arrived minutes later, makeup flawless despite the sleepless night. How is he? She demanded. I studied her carefully. Stable, I said, but the doctors found something. Her eyes flickered barely, but I saw it. What are you implying? She snapped. No one's implying anything, Dr. Owens said evenly. But until we have answers, Daniel remains under protective care, and Mrs. Collins's surgery is off the table. Color drained from her face, then returned in a sudden flush. You can't just, it's already done, the doctor said. She turned on me, voice sharp. You'd let your son die while you played detective. I held her gaze. For the first time in years, I didn't flinch. That evening, Peter suggested we retrieve anything suspicious from Daniel's house before it disappeared. We left Nathan with Janice and drove through streets slick with rain. The house was eerily quiet. Peter unlocked the side door with the spare key Daniel had given him years ago. Inside, the air smelled of stale coffee and lavender cleaner. In the kitchen, I found the cabinet Nathan had mentioned. Behind a stack of cleaning supplies sat a small amber bottle with no label. My stomach turned. Take pictures, I whispered. Peter snapped several with his phone, then sealed the bottle in a plastic bag. We moved to the bedroom. On the nightstand lay a folded sheet of paper, half a pharmacy receipt, half a note scrawled in hurried handwriting. Meet at the South Lot, midnight, bring everything, payment after results. Peter's eyes met mine. That's her handwriting, he said. A car door slammed outside, headlights swept across the curtains. We froze. Through a crack, I saw Melissa's SUV pulling into the driveway. She wasn't supposed to be home yet, Peter hissed. I grabbed the bagged bottle and the note. Back door, I whispered. We slipped out just as her footsteps echoed on the porch. Back at the hospital, Nathan sat cross-legged on a chair, clutching his backpack. He looked up, worry etched deep. Did you find anything? Yes, I said softly, enough to protect your dad. Peter crouched beside him. You were brave, kiddo, but we need one more thing. Nathan glanced at his backpack, then slowly unzipped it. I already have it. He pulled out a small digital recorder. I turned it on when Mom was talking to Grandma Peterson yesterday, he said. They didn't know I was in the hallway. Peter and I exchanged a stunned look. Nathan pressed play. Melissa's voice filled the quiet waiting room, low and sharp. After the transplant, the insurance payout is ours. Make sure the paperwork is ready. He won't suspect a thing. Then an older woman's voice, her mother, answered. And the mother-in-law, will she agree? She doesn't have a choice, Melissa replied. Once she signs, it's done. The recording ended with a soft click. My chest constricted. It was more than enough. Dr. Owens listened to the audio, his brow furrowing deeper with every word. This is serious, he said at last. I'll notify hospital security and the police immediately. Peter exhaled, a sound somewhere between relief and fury. Good. I looked at Nathan, this small boy who had carried a secret heavier than any child should bear. You saved your father, I said, drawing him into my arms. He clung to me, whispering, I just wanted Dad to be okay. Outside, thunder rolled again, a distant reminder that the storm wasn't finished. Hours later. As night settled over Harbor Point, I stood alone by the ICU window. Daniel slept beneath the soft hum of machines, his chest rising and falling like a fragile tide. I thought of every sacrifice, double shifts at the cannery, years of loneliness after my husband's death, the silent promises I'd made to keep my family safe. And I realized I would keep that promise no matter how dark the truth became. Night returned to Harbor Point with a low, restless wind. The storm that had battered the town all day seemed to gather strength again, a brooding echo of the turmoil inside the hospital. I hadn't left Daniel's bedside, not even to stretch my legs. Machines kept his pulse steady, their rhythmic beeping both comfort and torment. Around midnight, Dr. Owens entered quietly, his expression grave. Mrs. Collins, the police are on their way. We've secured the toxicology evidence and the audio file. Your son remains stable for now, but we'll keep a close watch. I nodded, gripping the arm of the chair. Thank you, doctor. Please keep him safe. Peter hovered near the door, arms crossed, eyes burning with restrained fury. If Melissa shows up tonight, he said, I'll be ready. Don't start something you can't finish, I cautioned. He gave a bitter laugh. I won't start it, she already did. Just before dawn, hospital security informed us that Melissa had returned, demanding to see Daniel. When they refused, she became frantic, shouting that we were all conspiring against her. They escorted her out, but the unease lingered like a draft through a cracked window. Nathan stirred awake in his chair and rubbed his eyes. Grandma, he whispered, will Dad be okay now? I brushed a damp curl from his forehead. Yes, sweetheart, you were brave, because of you. Has a chance. His small hand found mine. I heard Mom yelling, he said, voice trembling. She sounded different. I swallowed the ache in my throat. Sometimes people show who they really are when they are afraid. By late morning, the police arrived, 2 detectives in plain clothes. They took statements, photographed the pills, and copied the recordings. One of them, Detective Ramirez, promised they'd question Melissa and her parents immediately. We'll handle the legal side. He assured me, for now, stay with your son, let us do the heavy lifting. I wanted to believe him, but dread gnawed at me. Melissa was unpredictable and desperate. I was right. That afternoon, while the detectives were still in the hospital, Melissa slipped past security during a shift change. She stormed into the ICU waiting area, her face pale, eyes wild. You, she hissed at me. You poisoned his mind against me. You turned my own child again. Peter stepped in front of me. Melissa, you need to leave now. You think you can keep him from me? Her voice cracked, sharp as broken glass. He's my husband, mine. Security rushed forward, but she darted around them, pushing into Daniel's room. Alarms shrieked as she reached for the Roman 4 pump. Stop, I cried. Dr. Owens and 2 nurses blocked her, their movements swift and practiced. In seconds, she was restrained, screaming, he's mine, you can't take him from me. The detectives moved in, reading her rights over her own ragged protests, when they led her away. Her eyes locked on mine, furious, almost pleading. You ruined everything, she spat. Everything. The doors closed behind her with a final heavy clang. Hours later, when quiet finally settled over the ward, Dr. Owens called me aside. Mrs. Collins, Daniel's kidneys are stabilizing. With treatment and time, he may recover without a transplant. The damage is serious but reversible. The relief was so sharp it felt like pain. I pressed a hand to my heart and whispered a thank you to a God I hadn't prayed to in years. Peter exhaled hard, as though he'd been holding his breath all day. She won't hurt him again, he said. I glanced toward the hallway where the police had taken Melissa. I hope you're right. That evening, as rain began again in soft, hesitant drops, Nathan climbed onto the chair beside me. Grandma, he said, his voice small, did I do something bad? I turned to him quickly. No, sweetheart, you did something brave, you saved your dad. He leaned into me and I wrapped an arm around his narrow shoulders. I just want us all to be happy again, he murmured. I kissed the top of his head. One day, I promised, we will be. But in my heart, I knew the storm wasn't finished. Legal battles waited, and the wounds inside our family would take longer to heal than any incision. Outside, lightning flickered faintly on the horizon, a final reminder of the chaos we had survived and the reckoning yet to come. Morning crept into the hospital in shades of gray and pale gold. After the chaos of the night, the corridors felt almost too still, as if the building itself held its breath. I stood by Daniel's bed, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest. The monitors beeped a slow, steady rhythm, a fragile lullaby. Peter arrived with 2 coffees. The steam curling into the cool air, he handed one to me. The detectives want to meet, he said. They have updates. I nodded, brushing a damp strand of hair from my face. Nathan stirred awake on the couch, rubbing his eyes. Grandma, is Dad still okay? He's stable, I said softly, squeezing his hand. Thanks to you. In a small conference room, Detective Ramirez spread out photos on the table, the unlabeled pills, the pharmacy receipt, and the blurred images Peter had taken of Melissa's late-night exchanges. We interviewed Melissa and her parents overnight, Ramirez began. The audio you provided matches her mother's voice. They were negotiating an insurance payout that would trigger once Daniel received a transplant, especially if complications followed. Peter's jaw tightened, so it was about money all along. The detective gave a grim nod. Melissa admitted nothing, but we have enough for charges: attempted poisoning, insurance fraud, conspiracy. Her parents are implicated too. I pressed a hand to my chest. And Daniel, he's safe now, Ramirez assured. We've issued restraining orders. We'll keep officers nearby until the hearing. Hours passed in a blur of paperwork and whispered conversations. Reporters gathered outside the hospital, their cameras hungry for scandal. I avoided them, staying close to Daniel, who was slowly waking from sedation. His eyes fluttered open, confused. Mom, what happened? I leaned close, tears blurring my vision. You're going to be all right, sweetheart. That's all you need to know right now. Peter stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed but face soft. We'll fill you in when you're stronger. Daniel's gaze shifted between us. Melissa, I hesitated. She's not coming back here. You need to rest. He swallowed hard, the truth dawning in his eye. He turned his face toward the window, silent. That evening the hospital released a statement confirming the investigation. Janice slipped into the room carrying a small bouquet of daisies. The whole town's buzzing. She said gently, but you don't owe anyone explanations. I managed a tired smile. Thank you for being here, Janice. I don't think I could have faced this night alone. She squeezed my arm. You were the one holding everyone together, Teresa. Don't forget that. Later I found Nathan in the family lounge staring out at the darkening sky. Grandma, he said quietly, will Mom go to jail? I knelt beside him, searching for the right words. The police will decide what's fair. What matters is you told the truth. He bit his lip. I didn't want to hurt her. I know, I said, drawing him into a hug. But saving your dad was the bravest thing you could ever do. That night I finally stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The rain had stopped, leaving the pavement slick and shining under the streetlights. Harbor Point smelled of wet earth and sea salt. I tilted my face to the cool breeze, the weight of weeks settling into something like relief. Peter joined me, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. Mom, he said softly, you did everything right. Daniel's alive because of you and because of Nathan. I looked toward the hospital windows where my grandson's small silhouette leaned against the glass. We all did what we had to do, I said. A silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable, just full of everything we didn't need to say. Inside, Daniel slept peacefully. Machines hummed a steady promise of life. I pulled a chair to the bedside and took his hand, feeling the warmth return. You'll heal, I whispered, and we'll find our way through this somehow. I thought of the years behind us. Loss, sacrifice, quiet endurance, and of the years ahead, still uncertain but finally free of shadows. Outside, the first pale streak of dawn touched the horizon, thin as hope but growing stronger by the minute. The morning Daniel was released, Harbor Point felt washed clean. Overnight, a gentle rain had rinsed the streets until they gleamed like silver ribbons. The storm that had haunted our nights was finally gone, leaving behind a quiet I could almost taste. Peter pushed the wheelchair while I carried a small bag of clothes. Nathan skipped beside us, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Daniel sat upright, thinner than before but with a new steadiness in his eyes. When we reached the car, he looked up at me. Mom, he said softly, I heard everything. The detectives told me more than you probably wanted me to know. I paused, meeting his gaze. Then you know how close we came to losing you. His voice wavered. I can't believe Melissa, I thought she loved me. Peter rested a hand on his brother's shoulder. Love doesn't hurt like that, Danny. It just doesn't. Daniel's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them back. Thank you for saving me when I didn't even know I needed saving. I squeezed his hand. Your son saved you first. Never forget that. Life didn't snap back to normal overnight. The trial dragged on for weeks. Melissa's parents pleaded guilty to fraud and tampering with medical records. Melissa herself fought every charge, her face appearing in newspapers and local broadcasts. I watched none of it. Instead, I poured my energy into what truly mattered, helping Daniel heal and giving Nathan a childhood unclouded by fear. We moved Daniel into my house, the small bungalow that had once felt too quiet after my husband died. Suddenly it buzzed again, Nathan's laughter chasing through the hallways, the smell of Peter's late-night coffee drifting from the kitchen. Some evenings we'd sit on the porch as the harbor wind carried the scent of salt and pine. Daniel would rest under a blanket, Nathan curled beside him while Peter fixed the squeaky porch swing their father had once built. Those were the nights when peace finally felt real. One Saturday, Peter found me at the dining table surrounded by papers. What are you working on now, Mom? He asked, wiping sawdust from his hands. A foundation, I said, sliding a folder toward him. The Robert Hart Community Scholarship for kids in Harbor Point who want to study medicine or community service. Your father always wanted something lasting for this town. Peter's eyes softened. Dad would be proud. Daniel, listening from the couch, nodded. You never stop taking care of people, do you? I smiled faintly. It's what keeps me alive. Weeks later, Daniel asked if I'd walk with him down to the pier where he'd played as a boy. The tide whispered against the rocks and the sky stretched wide and endless. I keep replaying it, he admitted, staring at the water. How close I came to not being here and how blind I was. You trusted the wrong person, I said gently. That isn't blindness, it's hope. Don't let her steal that from you. He turned to me, eyes shining. I won't. But I'll never take love for granted again. I touched his cheek, feeling the warmth of life beneath my palm. That's all any of us can promise. Nathan joined us, sprinting down the pier with the energy only a 9-year-old can carry. Grandma, Dad, look at the dolphins, he shouted, pointing toward the shimmering waves where gray backs arched and disappeared. Daniel laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. The sound was a gift, as bright and clear as the morning sun. That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat at my desk and opened the worn leather journal I'd kept since my husband's death. By lamplight, I wrote, "Respect must be earned before it is begged for." Truth is the quiet armor we carry, even when love tries to blind us. Family is not defined by who shares your blood, but by who protects your heart. I closed the book and listened to the peaceful rhythm of the house, Peter's light footsteps in the hallway, Nathan's soft breathing from the next room, Daniel's steady cough as he settled deeper into sleep. For the first time in what felt like forever, the silence was not heavy. It was whole. The storm had taken so much trust, certainty, the illusion that family ties could never break. But it had given me more clarity, courage, and the unshakable truth that love, real love, survives every betrayal. And as the moonlight spilled across the harbor, I knew with a calm beyond words, we would never be the same and we would never again be afraid. Every storm leaves a lesson. Mine was simple but unshakable. Real love is proven by respect, and dignity is something you protect, not something you... Have you ever trusted your instincts and changed the ending of your own story? Share it below, I'd love to hear. If this journey touched your heart, join our community at Loving Truth Stories. Subscribe now so you never miss the next true story of courage, justice, and hope, and help us spread these values to everyone who needs them.